Hello, the audience. Welcome to the inaugural episode of They Came From the Silver Screen. I am Josh Tregenza, and I am here with my co-host,
Damian. It is a pleasure to meet you also, faceless internet audience who numbers, I'm sure, at least into the single digits.
for the moment, of course.
Of course. Look, we dream larger, but we are realistic.
Exactly. And yeah, so They Came From the Silver Screen is a podcast about films and society and how they both influence one another and riff off each other. For our first one, we have a fucking doozy.
An absolute doozy. Also, we're actually swearing in this podcast. Is that a decision that we've just made?
Yep, we started. I set it up with the explicit, and we can make a choice if it's clean at the end. But won't be one. I can assure you of that.
Thank fuck for that, because I was so worried about having to watch my language throughout this entire thing. I'm so happy that I assume like the worst ones are kind of off the cards just for advertising purposes.
Civility.
God forbid that we actually get sponsors at any point in the career of this machine that we've created. But for the moment, at least, sort of generalistic curses are sweet. Are we giving that an okay right now?
I think that's fine. Yeah.
All right, fantastic.
Unless any potential sponsors deem otherwise.
Yes, if there are any sponsors out there that not only value high-quality curses, but also happen to be purveyors of strong liquor, we would love to hear from you. Contact us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So, just saying. Oh, well, speaking of, Josh, what is your poison tonight?
Tonight I am drinking the Old Faithful, Jack Daniels. It has got me through it all.
Except no substitutes. Well, I'm choosing the beverage, my wallet's beverage of choice, I should say, which is the cheapest, whitest wine that my bottle shop could provide. But indeed, stiff drinks are necessary here, I feel, because we have chosen, quite ambitiously, I suppose one could say, although you could say that about anyone involved in this film, I guess, joke. But no, our first film for our inaugural podcast, God help us all, is Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice.
This was a film.
Thank you. I just wanted to pause for that. I knew it was coming. I knew that sigh was coming. It's quite curious, mate, because when we first sort of discussed doing this podcast and setting everything up and everything like that, especially when we came to comic book movies, I had this grandiose notion that what we'd actually do was we'd set up this sort of contrary discussion thing where we'd have the layman perspective, which would come from me, and I suppose what I'd say is I'm not an absolute slouch when it comes to comic book lore, but I'm certainly not an absolute expert versus the manifest expert in these matters, which is you yourself, good sir, in the hopes that we could actually sort of try and have this really fascinating, contrary discussion on how the film was going to be about, and we'd have conflicting views, and there'd be some fantastic conversations. And I kind of am worried that that's completely fallen flat as an aspiration, because I feel that our opinions are pretty much aligned on this film. And I guess we should just start with the most basic summation possible in 25 words. Actually, no, just one sentence. Sum up this movie for me.
Oh, fuck. All right. It is about Batman and Superman versing one another for God knows why too long, far too long, and other things happen in it.
All right, so I guess we should, before Josh has an aneurysm, I guess we should try and sort of state some kind of. I was going to say that
we've got to unpack that.
That's going to need some serious deconstruction in a second, but I guess we should backtrack slightly and actually just sort of discuss what the mission statement of these sorts of discussions should be. I suppose the beauty of this is we kind of don't really know exactly what form these discussions will take at the moment. I suppose over time have a kind of more structured notion of how to discuss a movie. But at least for this one, I think it's going to be a bit more sort of shooting from the hip, flying by the seat of pants, which I guess is kind of appropriate in a way because I feel like this is a movie that we do actually both feel like for very separate reasons and for similar reasons feel very strong about.
Absolutely. I think where the differences are is the severity that we feel them in.
Absolutely, yes.
Because I feel betrayed by this film. I feel
Right.
betrayed by it after uh, numerous, numerous films from Warner Brothers that have led me astray.
Well, let's take it back then to the birth, let's say, of this new iteration of Warner Brothers' attempt to basically do the what's their version of the MCU? What are they calling it? The DC multiverse?
Well, it's just the DC. It's just the DC universe. I don't.
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
know if
Yeah.
they. I don't think that. I quite liked. Someone was saying on the Twitterverse, saying that this is the Murderverse, the DC Murderverse.
Oh God. Well. Yeah. Well. God. We'll get to that in a second. But I suppose if we tackle sort of your viewpoint on these movies as like I should point out a full blown bona fide DC fan of the classical
Absolutely,
sense. Absolutely, right?
absolutely. I
Yeah. So I mean,
love it. I have it tattooed on my body. I have Shazam. I have the New Gods. I have
you got the
Green
Green
Lantern.
Lantern Corps, man.
Yeah, I got it all covered up.
Let it be
You
known
know,
to the audience that I have
I
seen every inch of Josh and all his tattoos in its glory, and frankly, the how that happened is in an entirely different podcast.
absolutely. We can get into that later.
But what
We
I'd
got
actually,
bigger
yeah,
fish to fry.
oh gosh, we do. Like I said, what I suppose I'd like to go back to and maybe try and deconstruct is how we got to this point that we are at right now. And I can't understand that we're kind of working backwards here, but I suppose what I want to kind of try and understand is how we got to this point here, how we got to a movie that, let's just go on the record as saying neither of us thought was very good, to put it mildly.
No, and didn't think it was going to be very good for a large chunk of the laborious marketing season that it had.
Mm, absolutely.
I
I
think
mean,
it
yeah, I
had
mean,
like a
yeah,
year,
no,
maybe
bro, like
two.
18 months, man, because they kicked us off towards they threw the first teaser out, I think, at the start of 2015. So I mean, yeah, I mean,
Oh,
like beyond anything else, if you start hyping a movie a year and a half before it ever comes out, I honestly don't see how expectations are going to be met. But leaving aside BVS for the second, I want to try and track back for a moment and sort of work out how we got to this point. And this might turn into a very long, protracted discussion, and maybe we'll sort of edit this down for the final edit or anything like that. But because I mean, like beyond any doubt in my mind, the birth of all of this basically comes from Chris Nolan back in 2005.
absolutely. Yeah, this is not something, the current universe started with Man of Steel, which we can talk about in another thing.
Yeah,
But yeah, it all started off the success of the Nolan verse,
yeah.
of the Batman trilogy.
And I think I think you said it best. I think way back when we were first watching I think Dark Knight or something like that, all the way back in I think 2000 and oh heavens, five I think is when
Yeah, when it,
5 or 6 or something like that. I'm struggling to remember, and I'm sure people will correct us after the fact. But
oh, they will.
they oh gosh they were no, it was 2008. I remember now. It was 2008. The Dark Knight came out. And I think you stated quite correctly that basically through, Nolan, I don't think anyone would accuse him of being an emotional director.
No,
I mean, even it,
not an
yeah,
emotional
no,
director. He understands that there are things called emotions in the world.
absolutely. I think,
I don't think he feels them.
I think he's read about them in books. I think like I'd call him like the closest thing we've got to Kubrick in this current world. I mean, you look at something like Interstellar, and I understand I'm going off the path here, but I mean, you look at something like that, and that is so grounded in scientific facts, so uh, truly trying to embrace, at least I suppose, the notion of like absolute scientific accuracy within a fantastical realm, but there was also that desperation. I say desperation. I suppose I'm not sure. That might be derogatory on my part, but his attempt to try and root all of these fantastical human endeavors back to just this grandiose notion of love, and the exploration to the fourth dimension, all that sort of stuff about how love can transcend all of that. It always felt analytical in its execution. I mean, you look at something like Inception. What other director would think that anyone's dream world would basically be some sort of MC Escher painting, like of just endless, staircases and architectural wonders. Nothing fantastical, nothing, for the lack of a better word, Terry Gilliam about it.
No, it was very much steeped in a real world.
Exactly. And I guess that after I mean, look, I suppose I'll leave, other people to decide exactly where the Joel Schumacher Batmans lie. But I mean, I honestly feel that after Batman and Robin, that bringing someone like Nolan on, who was so finite and precise in his execution, was a deliberate course correction on Warner Brothers' front to try and make him relevant. And if there's nothing else in Nolan's Batman movies that you could really grasp hold of as in terms of ideology, it is nothing if not a post 9/11 world. Incredibly cynical, incredibly grounded. Notions of good and evil are incredibly grey.
And I think that not only was the reaction uh, of of bringing in Nolan. So bringing in Nolan was a reaction to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man as well. But
Mm,
Warner Brothers, as is their wont to do, takes it too far. They go, oh, well, we have to do, they made Spider-Man a little more real, that he had realistic web shooters and all of that. And he was just a little more down to earth and all of that. He was a little more steeped in that. They took that, they saw it, and they went, all right, well, we have to do something real as well. We have to take it away from the more charlatan sort of Batman that they had from the Schumacher and made it real, real. And that's, I
yeah.
think, is their mistake. And I think that what
I,
Nolan did was
mm,
he.
I'll interrupt you for 1 second because I don't think you could say it better than you actually said it yourself back when we first
Oh,
watched Dark Knight in
please do.
2008. You said this is not a Batman movie. This is a film noir that happens to have Batman in it.
Absolutely. And the main character of it is Bruce Wayne trying not to be Batman. He just
Exactly.
stumbled into being Batman, much like a noir film where it's the reluctant hero.
Mm,
Where if he could find a way out, he would. And that, at its core, is not what Batman's about. He's so into this war that he has created, even in his own mind, that this is it. This is exactly what I have to do with my life, and nothing will stop me. Which,
that's the thing. So I suppose in the source material, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but was there ever the level of self doubt in the comics that Christian Bale's Batman had in the movies.
I There was only the times that I remember. A lot of the ones when there was, deaths in family. When a Robin had died, when Barbara Gordon was paralyzed, where that sort of resolve was shaken to its core. Um, Batman as a character is supposed to be able to confront um, any problem and best it, but at a cost of his own self. Whether it be his sanity, his loved one, a semblance of a normal life, he'll give that up. It's never. Um, he'll always give it up before it's taken away from him.
Sure.
Yeah, which um, the Dark Knight didn't let him do. But Batman Begins it kind of did, but no, it was still taken away from him because Rachel didn't. Um, Rachel said no to him, and then Rachel died. So she was the one saving grace for him.
That's a thing. So I mean, I suppose I want to kind of toss things forward now, with our understanding, because I mean, I suppose Dark Knight was kind of the that was the lightning rod of what I guess you would call the modern superhero film. Like we've got the classics, which are just beautiful, dyed in the wool comic book movies, like the early day X-Men movies,
Yeah,
especially X-Men 2, especially Spider-Man 2. I mean, I defy anyone to find a purer and more just viscerally and emotionally enjoyable film to watch than Spider-Man 2 if you're a fan of comic books.
absolutely. It is
Because
a joy.
yeah, it is absolute joy, and I actually watched it again recently, and I think I mean, it's funnily enough, I think it has to do with the fact that Sam Raimi, when he started out, he was doing these just schlocky, cheap body horror films that nevertheless, if you've seen the Evil Dead films, audience, you'll understand that they always found humor within the macabre.
Mm.
And understanding that there has to be this give and take between understanding that, I mean, obviously the stakes are high, but at the same time, dude, it's a man spider battling a robotic octopus,
Yeah, and
understanding the humorous pathos that comes with that, but working it to your advantage.
but also so much heart that was put into it, and not just the heart of Spider-Man himself, but also of uh, Dr. Otto Octavius.
Exactly.
And it was just, oh, it was a
Because I mean
fantastic film. And
that is truly a villain that you actually sympathize with.
absolutely, it was, it was so good. It was so good.
Exactly.
And that was probably the end of I guess of um, the golden age of comic cinema.
The classic comic
Yeah, because
cinema,
then after that
cinema,
you
and
had
yeah,
Blade
I would absolutely.
Trinity, you had Fantastic Four, you had Last Stand, and then like in 2007 you had Spider-Man 3 and the second Fantastic Four film. So that really was kind of that was the nail in the coffin because in
That was that kind
2008
of, yeah,
Dark Knight came out and Iron Man. So
exactly.
those are the two
I and
films that kind of
I
started. Well, I think reaffirmed that yes, this is a new age. This is to use comic book terms, this is the silver age of comic book movies. Because yeah,
and I
once
had
Iron
actually
Man
I
came
had
out,
actually
bam,
yeah.
bam, bam.
Yes. I had lamented from mentioning Iron Man, of course, but I mean, they both came out in the same year, obviously,
Mm.
and it's actually, I mean, we could, I mean, and we probably should, to be honest, Otherwise, this first episode will be 3 hours long.
Hey, Civil War's
We
coming
should
up
we
soon, so we got time to do to get it
absolutely,
in.
but I mean, yeah, we should. I mean, you could devote a whole other episode to how those two movies basically forged a fork in the road between how Marvel and DC approached their films.
Absolutely, because they are both set in a post 9/11 world, and yet they treat themselves so differently.
Yeah, and I mean, like they are nominally at least assuming that this does take place in the quote unquote real world.
Mm.
They both of these films in their own way make it very, very clear that this is a grounded and realistic portrayal of what it would be like if these two broken men happen to exist in the world that we live in now. And I mean, not to delve into it too deeply, but I think that this is endemic to what we're very laboriously leading up to with our subject film. This is the issue with all what these latter day DC films, well, at least one of them anyway, I would argue, is that Marvel found the lightheartedness within the drama. They kept true to the source material, whereas I would argue that in DC's desire not only to push forward with what financially was a sure thing after the tone and success of the Nolan films, but also in I would argue, desperate attempt to try and differentiate themselves from the Marvel MCU. They have plowed themselves into this quagmire of I can't think of another way to describe it, but the ultra real.
Yeah, yeah,
This hyper realized reality that is almost so cold and so brutal and so devoid of mercy or joy or any sort of shred of happiness that it actually kind of works as its own kind of perverse fantasy.
absolutely. Well, it becomes. Um, oh, see, they chose the. I think they chose the wrong person to lead up a Nolan verse, which his biggest thing was a deconstruction of superheroes themselves. That being, of course, the
Exactly.
director of Batman versus Superman, Zack Snyder, who I think his best film to this day is Watchmen, which is a deconstruction
Absolutely.
of exactly that which he is now directing and creating a universe for.
I'd thoroughly agree with you. Well, let's talk about like Snyder for a second. I mean, what is he to you as a director?
I think he is a.
Actually, I'll ask you a counter question.
Mhm.
Considering that he's basically been passed the torch, what's the difference between Nolan and Snyder?
Nolan doesn't do glitz and glamour for glitz and glamour's sake. He is a very pragmatic filmmaker.
Agreed.
You know, as you were saying earlier on, that his views of of dreamscapes are very real. These are things that you can see in the world already, whether it be in like paintings or all that, but still very embedded in reality. Whereas uh, Snyder Snyder is a Nolan and Michael Bay love child, in that he wants to
That
be.
might actually be the best description of Snyder I've ever
Because he is a.
heard. For all the good parts and all the bad parts.
Absolutely, yeah. That is, he is.
Because no,
He
because I mean, like, no,
goes
it's
over
funny
the
you say
top.
that because yeah,
He's stylized as fuck, which, in some regards is to his credit. But he also likes to
I
keep
mean,
it
if
real, yo.
yeah, I mean, if you wanna, if you, I mean, whether you like it or not, as a as any sort of self-respecting film lover, one has to acknowledge that the man is an auteur. He is the best at what he does. The problem is that he has a skill set that, if not used properly, results in a fucking disaster.
And I think we saw the good in Watchmen and 300. I think we saw the bad. We started to see it in Sucker Punch.
Right.
And then now with Man of Steel and BVS, where it's that it's kind of an adaptation. But it's not. It's still its own thing. It's this weird hybrid. You can see that that dissonance and that where he's faltering.
So do you think that's it? Do you think that, for lack of a better word, once his own sense of agency gets involved in the creation of a picture, that's where the problems start?
I I think so. Yeah, I think I think from his point of view, I think that is exactly where it starts.
It's funny, yes, because I mean, if you look at all his previous three films, the remake of The Dawn of the Dead, which was, I mean, he had ample source material to work from.
Mm-hmm.
300, where he worked from the Frank Miller comic frame by frame to compose the film, same as he did with
Yep.
you know Watchmen, Alan Moore and Dan Gibbons illustrating. He used the graphic
Mm-hmm.
novel as a frame of reference. This is a man who is an absolute visualist, and when
Mm.
he is given the material with which to manifest, if he's given room to work with uh, source material that is rich and fantastic, there are no limits. Frankly, I would argue to the glories that he can manifest. I mean, you look at, I mean, people still talk about 300, and I mean, as much as that it has kind of become, it is now 10 years old, and
Mm.
nevertheless, it still occupies this kind of place of, I don't know quite what to call it, but people still revere it as one of these
Yeah, it is kind of
one of the
relevant.
seminal action films of a certain generation's childhood. I mean,
Mm.
I saw it when I was graduating high school. This seminal moment in, like, cusping manhood, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. I mean, like, that's hyperbole, but at the same time, it's also not, because you saw this glistening muscle bound manifestation of basically just some paint on a page, and you were like, that is it. I
Mm-hmm.
might as well be reading the comic, but it's even better. And
Absolutely.
it's through that. I mean, again, Watchmen, we could devote an entire discussion to, just purely because of its absolute glorious and beautiful grandiosity, the slavish loyalty with which the film was brought to life was just magnificent. And to have so many people over so many years, Terry Gilliam, Paul Greengrass, all these people basically say this shit is unfilmable, and then this is the guy. This is the
This
guy that
yeah,
this is the guy
this
that
was a
made it
guy
happen.
to yeah, he was the guy to make not only make the film as it was on the page, but also have the insight into making the right changes. Um,
And that's
the changing of the end result, the end, the climax of the film
absolutely,
instead of
and I and
the
I think that
squid
works.
to Manhattan thing. It's a fantastic. It's a
It's
genius
actually, I
thing.
mean, like, dare I
Taking
say it, and I'm gonna, cop some ire for this, but I honestly feel like it works better than the ending in the comic book.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you there. It falls, it leaves a better taste in the mouth than and just something that gets popped in. You know, a Deus Ex Machina
Basically,
at
yes.
the end of it to be like, yep, yeah,
Which
absolutely.
is which is
It made
yeah,
sense within the
which
story.
is why, just to leave it alone and try to like laboriously crawl towards what we're actually meant to be talking about,
Oh,
God forbid, we,
can you tell audience that we really don't want to talk about this film?
we've been avoiding this for almost you know close to half an hour now. So, but we're gonna try. We're gonna have a crack. We're gonna have a red hot go at this. Okay, but to take that and understand that this is a man who, look, I have to assume that he understands, comic books. See, the way he talks about them in interviews, the way he discusses the characters, this is a man who has a deep seated understanding of, both the source material and the players that occupy them. And if Watchmen is any indication, also possesses at least a cursory narrative understanding of how you can interpret said source material to make it better for a film audience, which is why I am absolutely fucking dumbfounded as to what happened with Man of Steel and what happened with Batman v Superman.
Yeah, he there was such high hopes with him.
I feel like just for the sake of clarity at this point, we should try in the most, I don't know, like uh, basic way possible to elucidate what our actual beef uh, with the movie is.
Okay, so I think the main issue I have with Batman versus Superman is the fact that it is this strange hybrid of trying to be Dark Knight Returns, which is another Frank Miller uh, comic that he is trying to riff off,
Absolutely.
uh, but also uh, telling this like this disjointed Man of Steel universe that he's created, trying to have his cake and eat it too. It's just there's so much going on with it that is disjointed. There are just so many points that come up that you just go, no, this isn't right. This doesn't feel right. This isn't paced correctly.
Do you
It
speak?
is a mess of a film.
Do you speak of that as the DC fan, or do you just speak of that as a cinema goer? Because I mean, I know people. There are people out there that don't mind it.
There are people who love it. I think it's got a 34% rating on Rotten Tomatoes and a 72%, like a critics thing of 34%, 72% of audience members liking this film.
So how do you account for that disjoint in opinion? What's the
Uh,
difference? What are the critics looking for that the audience isn't?
a good film. They're looking for a good film.
Right.
Whereas audience members, they are okay with an okay film. We saw it with numerous Transformer films. People will go and see that film just because of the spectacle of it. And you know, as I said before, Snyder is the love child of Nolan and Michael Bay, and he does a bit of spectacle right. So I think that's what pulls it in, and it has brand names, so fanboy apologists can kind of get behind it and go, "Yep, those are the people."
Right. So I mean, I guess what I'd ask now is, as as someone, if we go, down the canon route for a second, as someone who is utterly familiar
Mm-hmm.
with obviously the Miller comics and the stories, and I mean, I mean, like, do we need to do spoiler? Do we need to do a spoiler alert?
Yeah, sure. Spoiler alert. This is a bad film. You shouldn't go see it. But if you want to go see it, don't listen to this at the moment. Watch it. Come back to it. There you go. We'll be waiting for you.
There we go. There we go. Caveat done. All right. So understanding that basically this film, crimps from the Dark Knight Returns and also the Death of Superman. I mean, like understanding the source material as you do, mate. Like what in the transition between that and the film, like what got lost? Because something got lost. Even from my perspective.
Okay, so what got lost? What? Okay, Death of Superman. I'll get that out of the way first because it's a quick one. It's just the fact that at the end of it, Doomsday shows up. Well, a thing that is called Doomsday shows up and fights Superman. That's that's it. That's all it is. That's the only thing that they bring about in there. And then maybe the relationship of Lois and Superman, because fuck alter egos in this universe as well too, right? There's barely any difference between Clark Kent and Superman. Um, but with Dark Knight Returns, it's not.
It's curious. I want to remember that point for a second. The difference between
Mm,
Clark Kent and Superman, because I want to come back to
yeah.
that in a minute. But sorry, mate. Continue.
Yeah, Dark Knight Returns is not a canon storyline. It is a it is an what DC calls an Elseworlds tale. It is not set in the main universe. It is set in a universe where superheroes are banned. Um, Superman is a tool of a Reagan-esque government, and Batman has been out of retirement for quite some time, and only due to a new bad that he comes back, and he starts being what Batman is. He starts righting wrongs.
I mean, this sounds beat for beat like
It,
Watchmen to me,
and it
man.
is, and Snyder has said it himself that Batman versus Superman is the spiritual successor to Watchmen. If you're trying to start a universe, which is what this film is trying to do, this is trying to play catch up to the Marvel universe.
Like the absolute clappers.
You don't do something. If you want to try and play catch up, you shouldn't use a source material that is at the finality of these characters, let alone it being outside of a regular universe, so that the characters that you're reading that you are not the same ones. They are riffing off history and current storylines that you are reading
Mm.
right now. You need that back. You need that knowledge beforehand to be able to go, oh, this is a good story. And people who think that Dark Knight Returns is a good story, I think they require that background knowledge to be like, yes, I understand what these characters were, and this is really fun to see them like this now.
Right.
It's the same reason why there's the storyline called Red Sun, where where Superman is, the literal Ubermensch. I think no, Red Sun. He is a Russian dictator in that. He was the son of Stalin. And there was a Nazi Superman one where he
Sure.
was he was raised by Hitler
Correct me
as
if I'm
well.
wrong. Was there a storyline where
They like
Zod was
doing.
basically aligned with the Soviets?
Oh, there must have been. There's
That's
enough
funny,
goddamn
just because
stories
I mean I
out
was
there.
watching Man of Steel again the other day, and Zod's chest plate looked enormously like a hammer and sickle to me.
Mm. I think that was Superman was, uh, he was born in the 50s and all that, and he did come out of all of that Red Scare thing. So I using the hammer and sickle would have been appropriate for Zod. Yeah, so there are a lot of stories there are a lot of Elseworld stories that talk about um, Superman or Batman different from what they are, and that's where Dark Knight Returns really does well in. It's not supposed to be part. It's not supposed to be canon. It's not supposed to be definitive interpretations of any characters within it. I think it was a bad thing to
Right.
utilize.
So I suppose, I guess I might sort of try and give my take then on it as, if not a layman per se, or at least more of like a classical viewer, and that I was, being ignorant to
Mm.
maybe, the true manifestations of the source material and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I've got my cursory sort of knowledge of everything, but I mean, I kind of just walk into it trying to judge it on its own merits, if nothing else. Which I suppose, I
Yeah.
would assume is what they kind of hope the people would do. Or,
Snyder. Yeah.
well, Snyder and Warner Brothers in general, I suppose. But
Mm.
I mean, like the opening of the movie, I honestly have to say, for the first 20 minutes of that film, I genuinely thought it was going to be great because you have,
I was surprised by that.
by the opening or by my opinion.
By your
Right.
opinion of
I
that.
suppose like just
Yeah. But
from
yeah,
a
once
from
again, yeah.
a all
Yeah,
right,
continue
from my
on.
standpoint, the I guess the big, overarching question or opinion or grievance I guess people had, like, to the end of Man of Steel, was the absolutely outrageous amount of collateral damage. Loss of life, destruction of, cities, whatever you want to call it. That was basically the massive takeaway
Mm-hmm.
from the end of Man of Steel, was like, who the fuck does this guy think he is? And I guess they could have been talking about Superman and Snyder, depending on like who the viewer was. But I mean, like, this is not the the red, white, and blue savior of the comics and everything like that, of what are traditional notions, Christopher Reeve and all that sort of stuff. Like, this is like, I mean, you look at those movies, like the tagline was, "You can believe a man will fly." I mean, I watched that Man of Steel, and I was like, I can believe a man will let a million people die and not feel too bad about it afterwards. So, I mean,
Oh, but he's making great strides in construction. I mean, they got that shit back
oh
together in
yeah,
18
get out
months.
of
That's
town, man.
amazing.
Like,
You know, the construction teams in Metropolis just
hey, man,
doing fantastic
Halliburton,
work.
we got a lot to thank him for. But I suppose I liked the opening of that movie because it did what Snyder does best, where he basically takes, excuse me for saying so, he takes cookie cutter sentimentalism, and then through just the sheer fuck offness of his visuals, elevates it to this almost
Mm.
operatic uh, sense of cathartic execution. Because I mean, it has to be. I've lost count of the number of times we've seen Bruce's parents cop it on screen, whether small or
Yeah.
big. So I mean that's
I think they did it in every
they
Schumacher
certainly
film
did multiple
and all
times.
of the
Hmm.
Burton films.
But I mean, so I mean, like, look, that in and of itself wasn't too special, and I kind of like, I mean, look, you got to establish the new Batman, fine, on a absolutely cursory, establishing narrative basis. I get that. You got to do that. You have to assume that there's people that haven't seen a single Batman movie before. Fine, whatever. But
Hmm.
then to juxtapose it with this moment of taking the climax of Man of Steel, but then flipping the switch so that you actually see it from the pitiful human perspective, to see the unknownness of it all, the terror of it all. And yes, as before, Snyder leans on 9/11 tropes like no one's business. It's almost shameless how much he's trying to evoke
He
that
he
terror.
did what he did what Nolan made allusions to.
That could
He
be,
literally gave
I was
us
going to
a
say,
9/11.
that could be the absolute definition of both of those guys to the end of time. That Snyder shows what Nolan alludes to,
Yeah.
at least in these kinds of movies. But leaving aside which kind of carries on later, the notion of Superman being accountable and everything like that. I like the juxtaposition of Bruce Wayne losing his professional family after he'd already lost his personal family. And for me, it gave, at least in the movie, a really strong cinematic impetus for why he had such an animosity towards Superman. Because if you just took it on faith that he was just like, this guy's a danger on some kind of nationalistic global level, and I have my doubts about him, I wouldn't have believed it for a second. But if you play into the notion of basically the act by this, well, for lack of a better word, alien, basically really pressing on the nerve of this childhood trauma that has now been doubled down tenfold. It it it, it framed the movie in a way that I could understand. I accepted the premise of the film based on the opening of it. The problem was that after that happened, they squandered the ever-loving Christ out.
See, I really enjoyed the starting scene. So of Ben Affleck plays Bruce Wayne and Batman, running around, acting the shit out of it. He's free to do what he is good at. I love that bit. The fact that he then, Bruce Wayne, and then uses this event to then go on his vendetta makes sense until you realize that he's been doing this for 20 years and he's lost a lot of people during that time, as you could see by the Robin suit in the glass. So
Right.
he's been doing this for a real long time. He's been doing it for 18 years at that point, because the film had been doing it for.
Which segues quite perfectly, I think, into a beef that both you and I had that was very, very strong, which is a true sense of narrative dissonance. I like a really true sense of narrative
Absolutely.
dissonance and disconnect. I don't quite know who's truly to blame. Whether it's Chris Terrio and your favorite man of all time, David S. Goyer,
Fucking Goya.
or the editor whose name I fear escapes me. But the composition of that film was an absolute atrocity. Just in terms of the compilation of the varying storylines,
Absolutely.
the opening of the film in the first 20 to 30 minutes, I had about 6 to 7 different narrative threads that were introduced, and then maybe you didn't see them for you know another half hour, 40 minutes or something like that. They were then brought back, and we were meant to think that and understand exactly what they meant.
Yeah, and I think the best, like you look at all of the Superman stuff at the start, all the all the Messiah imagery and all of that. It's nice and slow, it's measured sort of thing. And then you cut back to Lex Luthor, where it's just exposition overload. It's just talky, 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 talky. Look at this. We found this. We do this. We do that. I think this. This is my. This is basically why I'm doing everything that I'm doing. Hello, Senator. Hello. Hello, other senator. I can't remember the bald guy's name that Lex Luthor makes suck a lolly.
Iterations of Lex Luthor or anything like that. Like what your thoughts on
Okay,
Eisenberg?
so apparently, this is apparently Eisenberg was going to be the Jimmy Olsen of this film. That's what.
I did read that. Yeah,
But then they said, "Oh, what would be cool if we just make the person we want as Jimmy Olsen to be Lex Luthor? Wouldn't that be a laugh?" Which
that's a pretty strong like jump in logic.
that's a pretty big jump, and that's if it like you surely if you're casting you've got you've got the screenplay together and you've got the characters formed. Was that the same character, or was the fact that it was it was former Mark Zuckerberg playing the role that now they'll make him into the tech startup billionaire?
He was basically a programmer arsehole. I'm pretty sure. Like it seemed like so very very transparent that it was basically Zuckerberg with even less moral.
Yeah, which is just playing off what a character Jesse Eisenberg had already played.
By the same token, I suppose you could argue the same of Ben Affleck. To be perfectly honest, in his role as Superman. I mean, this is an actor and a guy who's been shat on for an absolute a lot of his career, and he play and so when he plays into that kind of just haggard world weariness, you kind of almost believe it just gone.
And it doesn't. I think where they utilized Eisenberg's previous performances, Affleck was under the shadow of Bale's Batman as well. That helped informed the time frame.
As there was no way that he couldn't be. Yeah.
Apples and oranges. For one thing, I liked Affleck's Batman. For all the ill of the film itself, I think the Batman film that will be fast approaching will actually be really good.
Well, they're saying there'll be 3.
Oh, really?
They want him for a new trilogy, man.
Don't know how I feel about that.
I don't even know what to think about that. Yeah, I don't know.
Because once again, he's 20 years fucking into this.
A grim sense of foreboding, I guess, is what I feel about this.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back to just the problems of the story in general. Narrative points that just straight up scuttled the rest of the movie. So number one, the fact that after 18 or 20 years of kicking ass in Gotham, Clark Kent is acting like this is some new crime wave.
This is a new thing.
This is some brand new thing that no one has ever copped to before.
This is like if someone right now at Huffington Post or BuzzFeed was like, "Hey, did you hear about this Jeffrey Dahmer guy? He killed a bunch of people." Because that's how fucking old it is. He was arrested in the 90s, in 94. It's like...
I mean, you see the disconnect even within the film, because I mean, they show the paper of him branding that sex offender, and it's very much clear that Bat Vigilante has done this. So it is in the paper, but yet just for the sake of needing Clark Kent to build animosity towards the character of Superman, they then fashion this completely separate storyline where it's no one cares about it.
Yeah, it's manufacturing. Like they set up Batman to hate Superman in the initial scenes, and I can't fault that.
Yeah,
If it was the new Batman, if he was 2 years into it, the same thing with Superman. If they were on the even playing field, dye Ben Affleck's hair so it didn't have the grayness to it, um, that would have been fine.
yeah.
That would have been fine because that made sense. Because surely he's seen the shit, and surely Batman villains would have crossed over into Metropolis, where there would have been that because they're just across the damn bay. It's not that far.
So that's the thing. Yeah, I mean that's the new geography that they've established is that Gotham and Metropolis are basically Jersey and
Yeah, you
Manhattan.
can see them. You can look out your door and you could probably see the Metropolis skyline, and vice versa.
Well, Luther says that fundraising party you should hop across the bay more
Yeah,
often.
which is
So like it ain't no thing.
it's a flaw in like Metropolis is supposed to be this idyllic place, where it's supposed to be golden and shiny, and it's supposed to look its best during the day, when you would be able to see Superman in all his glory, protecting the citizens, doing what is good. Fortunately, Snyder doesn't know how to do golden and shiny and goodness in a Metropolis, and it doesn't look like that. It looks like Gotham, which is muted and greys, and Gotham's a little more derelict, but not by much.
Well, I mean, I'd argue that in the Snyder version of the world, sunny Kansas looks like Gotham. So, I mean, which I would argue is a problem of tone
Absolutely.
a lot more than anything else. Like you said before, Snyder shows what Nolan implies. Nolan implied a world of darkness and subterfuge, whereas Snyder basically just goes, the world they live in is dark, ergo, the world they live in will be dark.
And no nuance to it.
And like assumes that, yeah, exactly, that throwing some proper color grading shade onto the screen is somehow going to, I guess, I don't know how to describe it. I mean, like what he thinks that because looking at the film and it's dark, we will assume, oh, this is dark and serious, and we should take it seriously.
Yeah.
Because the overriding opinion that I had of that was that it was dull.
Yes. There's nothing.
So
There was
let's
no spectacle in it. Like there was no true spectacle in
mm,
it. It had all of the formulas of it. There's lightning and there's laser beams and there's flying men and sonic booms and all that. But there's nothing. Yeah, it's all muted. It's all toned down to be real.
and I mean, like before we go on to uh, a plot point that I would argue leads directly into the spectacle that the movie takes its name from. I kind of just want to like look at that thing about that point you made just about like the sincere lack of joy
Absolutely.
in this film and in Man of Steel, because I mean obviously not to you know dish on the competition or anything like that, but Marvel has proven, and not perfectly. I am not a fan of Age of Ultron or anything like that, but those movies at least have proven that you can have moments of pathos and drama while still having a bright color palette, if nothing else. But God forbid they even manage to squeeze some jokes in there. You see a character smile every now and then.
Yeah.
This behemoth of a film is 2.5 hours long, and I think I saw maybe 1.5 smiles in the entire thing.
Oh, if you're lucky.
There is a grimness. There is a grimness that frankly just wears you
And
down.
and most of those smiles were done by Lex
And
Luthor.
whatever This is true, which I would argue that were drawn more from psychosis than any sense of true happiness. But I mean, it's almost impossible to actually enjoy a film like that, even if you want to, purely because the film seems so determined that you don't enjoy it.
Yeah, this is a serious story. We are tearing
It's so
serious things
it's
about
yeah,
two
it's
literal gods attacking each other for no real
exactly.
reason.
It's so ponderously and like bludgeoningly insists that you accept that this is a serious dramatical story that it refuses even the premise that there could be a moment of happiness in it. And so, I mean, to be honest, after 2.5 hours, it wore me down. It really did. Felt I felt fucking depressed, man, watching this.
It is a depressing film. Even so, there, the initial, I guess the initial thing of lovey-doveyness between Lois and Clark, when they come back from the desert, um, and Lois is in the bath, and Clark comes home. He's got his vegetables and flowers and all of that, and it's supposed to be all nice. And they're just talking about death and whether he should be doing this and yada yada yada. And there's no real point to this, but yeah, let's jump in the bathtub together. I'll deal with being Superman later. And the consequences of it, and really what the hell it is to be Superman.
And to be honest, that's one of the scenes I liked most in the entire
I
film.
hated it. I don't. I don't
Really?
think.
Oh, well, maybe all right. Maybe we have opposing opinions on this then. I suppose. All right. I'll tell you why I liked it, and
Yeah,
you can tell me why
please.
you hated it. The reason I liked it was because it actually gave us a human moment for Clark Kent. And the issue I took with so much of that film is because at the very base level, you're meant to sympathize and empathize with these heroes. But the movie goes out of its way to paint Superman as a god, as an alien, as someone who couldn't possibly understand the quandaries that humanity goes through. That he saves people, but even like the way the movie was shot, you can see it. He saves these people, but he does it with such a sense of detachment and almost like near anthropomorphic curiosity that my most overwhelming opinion of him when I watched it was the same as when I saw Dr. Manhattan, as someone who is so removed from human feeling and emotion that he can comprehend the concept of kindness and compassion, but it's like a memory that he can't quite remember. It's this almost elusive thing, and that's why I liked that scene with the bath because it actually showed Clark being human in this moment where you could actually be like, all right, he has stakes. He has someone that he cares about. He has a motivation for going through this. But I mean, even the rest of the Clark Kent scenes are mostly him being Superman, but just as Clark Kent, basically saying, why isn't Batman being stopped? Except he's not wearing the suit, he's just wearing a flannel shirt. But it doesn't really change the fact that all he gets to do is grimace and be upset about, you know, Batman and everything like that. So yeah, no, I mean that's why I really like that scene, just purely because in the midst of the rest of the movie where we're meant to truly connect with these two characters, feel the pain they're going to, because I mean, if there's nothing else in that film, Snyder seems determined for us to understand that these are two tortured souls going through some serious fucking shit to have this moment with Clark where he actually, I don't know, showed something beyond some range beyond just scowling incessantly at various CGI creatures.
I think, and so running off that, I think it shows um, Superman and Clark's true colors because they are very much the same person.
Mm.
It's just that when Superman is wearing his plaid and his glasses, he's able. No one expects anything of him. He is a god who who feels that he is entitled to live his own life, but the world doesn't let him. Bearing in mind that he was never introduced to the world in Man of Steel. Zod introduced himself to the world um, and Superman or Kal-El being the refugee to the planet Earth, and they're trying to take him back.
Mm.
At no real point does Superman ever get in front of a crowd to then announce that, I'm trying to do the best I can for us all. Thank you for having me here. Doing the something that Christopher Reeve Superman did so well to be so likable to the audience, to actually want to be a part of this world as opposed to just
Yes.
living within it. Because he's an insanely this Superman is an insanely selfish person. He's never thinking of the world itself. He's always just going, well, I need to do this because people expect it of me. I guess I need to. He's such a privileged little boy that's expected to play with his toys with other people.
I'd argue that that's basically every character in the movie in a nutshell.
I think that's what Snyder may see himself as.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I really truly feel like that is every character in the movie. You've just nailed it on the head. There is, I never really thought of it before, but it's honestly, there's this sense of overarching and pervading entitlement,
Mm.
not only amongst the characters in the movie, but also amongst the director and the screenwriter, which kind of leads me
Well,
into.
hold that thought.
I was telling you I had this.
Hold that
Yep.
thought because, like, and I think what really cements this notion down is the fact that when they go to the Senate, the Capitol Hill or wherever the hell it is, where they're holding the thing with
Yeah, Capitol Hill in DC. Yeah.
yeah, when they go there, that is the first time that Superman is given the chance to act, well, being forced to talk with the crowd and speak about himself.
And he doesn't
And
get
he
to say a
doesn't get to do
word.
it. It's like, and it's almost as if that from that, him looking dismayed. And it's like, look, this is what happens when you make me do this. People are getting hurt. Just let me do
I don't even
this.
know if he looked dismayed. I kind of feel like he almost just looked bummed out more than anything else. He's just like, oh man.
Yeah, because he didn't fucking be Superman. He has
That's
1,001
the
fucking
thing.
powers, and he couldn't do one fucking job.
I mean, like,
It's Scoot
I mean
McNairy,
that
God's
scene.
sake.
That God. I mean, there's a man that was squandered to the heavens and back.
Yeah, for the audience out there, if you are still listening, see Monsters. He was great in it.
Monsters, for God's sake, watch it. Brilliant indie film. Gareth Edwards directed. Went on to do Godzilla. He is just finished wrapping up directing Star Wars Rogue One, the first of the standalone films. It will be coming out in November or December this year. So if you didn't know him before, for fuck's sake, you'll probably know him by the end of this year. So, but I still believe that one of his best films is his first. Scoot McNairy was his star, and it was phenomenal. And he was squandered like you wouldn't goddamn believe in Batman versus Superman.
Absolutely.
But if you look at the just to after that plug, thank you, Scoot. I do appreciate you, mate, and send us booze. if you want. No pressure or anything like that. I'm presuming that, of course, that he'll be listening to our inaugural
Of
podcast
course.
because,
Hey,
well,
Scoot.
hell, who won't? Who wouldn't? I mean, also, yeah, Zach, sorry, bro. If you do want to cast me in something in the future, I do think you are one of the prime visualists of our age. Your eye for a good shot is not to be underestimated, but for fuck's sake, fire your editor before the next movie. But finally, what I would argue, the point that you made about this entire build-up, the notion that after everything that happened in Man of Steel, everything that happened in the beginning of Batman versus Superman. We culminate in this moment. All the trailers were billing it as the time where Superman will finally be held accountable for his actions, and then nothing
Nothing.
is basically the movie in a nutshell. It builds and builds and builds to these titanic heights that it can never possibly hope to reach. I cannot, I cannot go without commenting on what I have to call one of the single most hilarious and hackneyed plot twists of all time. I got to assume you know what I'm talking about.
Lay it on us.
Martha.
Hmm. So,
The fact,
for every
please go
for
ahead.
everything that they're grounding them in such, like, they hate each other so much. These people are driven to the point of murdering each other because they have to. And yet, the little thing,
Because their mums have the same name.
which to tell you the truth, I did not realize that that Ma Kent was Martha Kent. Like I knew it, but I never like put two and two together. That was like, oh my god, Martha Wayne and Martha Kent. What are the odds? That's crazy. Because it's fucking stupid. It's a stupid point.
It just
And this
seems
is a film full of
it's
stupidity. I feel like we are lingering on a lot of large things, but like the like showing other metahumans, Flash, Cyborg, Aquaman, like they were just thrown in there like it was like they were little trailers in the middle of a goddamn film, which once again poorly paced.
even Marvel has the good taste to actually tease their shit at the end of the movie.
Absolutely. Just or do it in little subtle ways, like they were doing with Wonder Woman. She actually comes into the story. You never actually know her name. You know her name's her? Fucking Lex Luthor.
Exactly.
He names them and he gives them God's damn insignias. Like he gets his design department to be like, hey, could you sort this out for these guys? They'll probably wear them later on in the piece.
I get a feeling that they're going to have spin-offs in the future.
I believe Flash is, and fucking
Dude,
hell,
they all are.
from everything I'm seeing from everything that I've seen of this Flash, good fucking god.
Well, it's what's his name?
Wallflower.
I it's Ezra something. Yeah, Wallflower. We need to talk about Kevin. So I mean, the kid's got chops. So I mean,
I
if the
just don't
part's
think he
good, I mean,
has.
I guess the part's
I
good.
just don't think he has chops to play. I believe he's playing Barry Allen, who is supposed to be a CSI investigator, like a crime scene investigator,
Right.
who is labouring over a cold case of his mother's murder, presumably by his father. And then he gets struck by lightning, and then he becomes the Flash. Whereas this is a man-bunned, scraggly facial-haired young man, not unlike ourselves, who just happens to have a connection to the Speed
Hey
Force.
man, man bunned people can be CSI people too. Don't discriminate.
Oh, I'm Yeah, I'm sure they can. I just, if you're out there, listener, please get in contact with me. I would love to find out how they
Yeah,
got in.
if you have a man bun and are in crime scene investigation type uh, career choices, by all means, we'd love to hear from you. And tell
Yeah.
us how you're able to keep that man bun so silky smooth and shiny soft.
Oh, maybe even. And is that the suit? The suit we see in the dream sequence? Is that his real suit? Is that just an armored version of his suit, so he
Travel through
can
time, yeah.
traverse time, but also dreams?
That was, I mean, well, look, that was just another list of things that just straight up was not narratively clear and didn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. And you know what? They were referencing the comic books. They were referencing Crisis on Infinite Earths when uh, Flash Barry Allen he sacrifices his life in order to run so fast that he's able to speed through time to keep the Anti-Monitor at bay, who was a world-killing machine, basically,
Mm.
well, a world-killing being, and then within cycling so fast through the Speed Force, which is where he derives his power from, he's then able to apparate in front of various points in time, warning people. And one of them is Batman. And Batman sees the Flash, who he has had a long history with. So this appearance to him leaves him shaken on an
Right.
emotional level, as if he is losing a literal friend, as opposed to having a bad dream and then having another bad dream where he sees some guy telling him that what Lois is the key, or is it Martha? Like a woman is the key.
Well, they did throw that line of dialogue in there where he basically said, "Oh, I'm too soon," which basically nullifies the entire purpose of his appearance, except for the fact that he needed to appear.
Yeah, exactly. To place it on, and it's like, well, even then, he didn't need to appear because you had just had a dream sequence, which is also a vision into the future of the world taken over by the I believe is going to be the next big bad for Justice League, Darkseid. Um, I'd
The
also like to add that
The Thanos of DC.
well, okay, so
Well, I
um,
mean, Darkseid came first, didn't he?
Thanos is yeah. So Darkseid came first. Then they created Thanos based on him. Then DC countered with that and created Mongol, which is based off Thanos.
Because of course they did.
Of course they did.
Lovely, I love
And
it.
that is the first. So and then that dream sequence. That is the first time you actually see Batman fight as Batman. And when I say as Batman,
Mm.
I mean not at all, because he's shooting the fuck up people
Because he kills
and he's in
everybody.
daylight. So these are he's not using guns. Batman doesn't use guns, and he doesn't normally operate in the daytime. So this is the first time we're actually seeing him fight, as opposed to slinking away in an abandoned house after he brands a sex trafficker. I'm guessing.
Yeah,
Yeah. So he
I think that's what it was. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, well, I assume that that's what he was doing with all those women in the cages. Um, yeah, so that's the first time we get to see him. This is the first time that we get to find out what this Batman's all about, and this isn't how he fights at all. We have to wait an
No,
hour 45 to actually see what the the main character of this film actually do what he is supposed to do. That is insanely bad, like, pacing of a film. This harkens back to what we were saying earlier. It's so badly paced. It's so poorly put together. I
yeah.
don't understand how these people have their jobs. This needs to be This just had to be a good film. Didn't have to be a great film. Just had to be a good film.
That's the thing that I just don't really. I mean, like the thing that dismays me the most is because I know for a fact that it could be a good film because we've seen people make good Superman films. We have seen people make good Batman films. There is absolutely nothing to suggest or to stop anyone from making a good movie that has both of them in it.
Absolutely.
But
There
the
there
problem,
is a good Batman
and
Superman
and
film.
mm,
It is just an animated film. And it is fantastic.
absolutely, which one is it
It is
for the
The
viewers?
Batman Superman movie, World's Finest. It is based on
There
the
you go.
animated
Look it up,
series.
everyone.
So it's good. It's real good.
I was telling you the other day that I had a theory
Yes.
about this film
Eagerly awaited theory.
and and about DC films in general that I feel basically uh, sums up the shortcomings of Man of Steel, also Batman v Superman, and um, look, I don't like to jump the shark on any of this, but
We got our
if we
bat
follow
shark
the
repellent.
same trajectory, I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's all the same. It's all the same screen. It's the same script writer. It's Chris Terrio again, Snyder again for the Justice League film.
Mm-hmm.
And it basically is this. I mean, leaving aside, I kind of like put a split between the the end of the Nolan films. I would consider the first film of this new DC era to be the aborted Green Lantern film.
Yeah, okay. I'll get behind that.
And and the point that I make or want to make rather about these films is that they exist, and bear with me here, they exist as self-contained apologias. They are films that exist on the understanding that people are going to be disappointed by them, but within themselves, their main purpose is basically to promise that next time it will be better.
Oh man, that's so depressing. That is so depressing.
But I truly think it's
Yeah.
correct. You look at Batman v Superman. It is basically it is a 2.5 hour long answer to Man of Steel. This notion of don't worry, we understand that millions dead is a bad thing. Don't worry, we will address it, but also not really. And don't worry about that because the next movie, which we will set up, you know, progression of plot and pacing of the film be damned, we will set up a film that's going to be way better than this one. And that's truly what I think it is. Every single one of these films is a an answer to the one that came before it, and b a promise of something that's going to be better in the future.
It's your
I mean, how could it not be? This movie was called Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice, so you knew even before we saw that hackneyed ass fucking Martha, our mums are the same name plot twist. You knew that as much as they were going to fight, they weren't really.
no.
But like before the movie was out, they were gonna have to fucking solve their differences, which takes like every moment of drama out of the film before it's even begun.
Yeah, well
I mean, even in the
yeah,
trailers,
in the
man.
trailers
The trailers,
Wonder Woman and
they
them
already
fighting, like getting together, all three of them. It's like, oh, well, there you go.
they showed them fighting Doomsday.
Yeah.
At the end of that trailer, they showed them fighting Doomsday. They were all teamed up. So you already knew that the fight was invalid before it even began. I mean, this is shit that like film school grads would not get away with. you are nullifying the primary dramatic hurdle of your film in service of a film that hasn't even been made
Yeah,
yet.
and you know what a good trailer would be? Sorry, a good film would be based on that trailer. If they did that all in the
Mm.
first 45 minutes, they did all of that, and then bam, they just kept go, 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 go. Because that's how you're supposed to do
I feel like you could have,
a
yeah,
trailer. You're supposed to show like the first, like, some of the first act in order to tempt everyone to go see the other two acts.
yeah.
And it,
I mean, that's the thing. It wasn't the dawn of justice. It was like it was like a 2.5 hour teaser trailer to some justice that might be coming later on if we make enough money on this film.
it is it is like a junkie cousin that keeps asking you for money. It's like, no, man, I'll get myself back on the back. I'll get myself put together. I just need a little cash. Just need a little cash. I swear I'll be good next time. Next time you see me, I'll be a new man. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. And it's like every time he keeps
Uh,
doing it.
Come on,
Oh, it's
see the movie, baby. I'll suck your dick.
it's and they expect us. This studio cares so little about us that they're just willing to do this to fans, and oh, it's so depressing because you're right.
But I think you see
You're
it.
so
It's
right.
something. It's something. It's something that we were talking about before. You see all these characters. They are self-obsessed, men, and I kind of feel like we got to include Snyder in that list as well. This is a guy who, like the characters in the movie, is wrong, but he has money to burn and carte blanche to do whatever he wants, and he believes that he is right.
That makes me furious because he's not. He's not right.
And that's what confuses me, because I mean this is a man that, like, clearly, if you read interviews with him, he understands the source material. He's read the source material on a surface, like, at least cursorial basis. You'd have to assume that he understands the premise of these stories, but somewhere along the way, and I don't know if it's a fault of the screenwriting or his own bent on said script, but it goes wrong.
I don't know. Yeah, this shit. Yeah, fuck. It's depressing. There's not much that you can say about that. It's this is a man who is out of control, who has a hard on for Frank Miller and the Alan Moores and all of that, and likes those stories, and then brings in a fantastic writer of DC, who's one of the heads of the comics at the moment, Jeff Jones, and this man is a wealth of knowledge, and he's written some really great iterations of both of these characters, and it just seems like he's squandering them. I, you know, I can only hope that, you know, Justice League, I've got very little hopes for. Suicide Squad, I'm not even seeing, because fuck that film. From everything I'm seeing, I can't. Jared Leto's, everything I'm hearing about Jared Leto sounds like a goddamn mess. Jai Courtney's in it, so fuck that. You know, it was a man that makes Sam Worthington look like a decent actor.
When will you heed? When will you heed Hollywood's call, bro? When will you heed Hollywood's call, bro? Jai Courtney is a star. I feel like we should just cast him as Han Solo in the Han Solo film, and then basically just set the world to self-destruct and be over with.
I think we need to give some sort of award to his agent, because whatever they're doing, it's working goddamn wonders.
That man
He's
has been
performing.
in I don't know, like, it's ludicrous what he's been in, and I mean,
Yeah.
kudos to him. I got to say,
Hey,
and
he
I
did the
want to
thing.
try and, like, he did the thing, and he did the thing well. I
Oh,
kind of want to try and like, and I mean, bear with me on this. I kind of want to try and wrap this up on a positive note.
okay. Okay.
You know,
Well, if we're going to
let's
talk
try and
positive
do our
notes about this film, we've got to talk about Wonder Woman. Gal
absolutely.
Gadot was, every time she was on the screen, she was fantastic. When they
It lifted the
introduced her
movie.
in the garb, when she jumped out, she was there, you know. Oh, they brought in the theme song by Junkie XL. Yeah, that was,
I
it
mean,
was the enthusiasm.
that's a man that knows how to score a frenetic moment. I mean, you look at his work on Fury Road and everything like that. I mean, he
Yeah,
knows his shit, and it was a perfect marriage of visuals, acting, music. It had absolutely everything. It was the first moment, watching it in a cinema with a decent crowd. It was the first moment we actually felt the audience just go, "Oh, I get it.
yeah.
All right, I get it. Like, fuck you, finally." Like, they were actually like, "Oh, we can feel good about something now. It's only been
It
two
is the
hours and
moment of,
10 minutes, but we can feel good about something now."
and you feel so good.
He feels so good. I mean, she does it,
She
and she
is,
does it fantastically. She nails it like a motherfucker. And yes, I mean, like, I don't know how the solo movie for her is going to go. I mean, you saw in the photo they've teased, like, there's Chris Pine to her left who's playing. I'm sure you'll be able to tell me.
I believe he's playing both Steve Trevor nowadays, but also as an ancestor of him back in that day as well.
Right.
I
I'm just
think
curious to.
that,
I'm honestly just curious to see how it turns out.
well, it's the casting looks good. I know Robin Wright is one of the Amazonians in it,
Can't go
which,
wrong with Robin.
hell no, she's like that'll probably be another film that I think I'll absolutely watch that one. Um, Aquaman, I'll give a go. Jason Momoa,
Mama.
yeah, I think he's a great actor. I've never faulted him in what he's got a good look for it. It's my favorite version of Aquaman. Sans the hook hand. But yeah, he's long haired, he's bearded, he looks like he's
Well,
actually been
it
in
looks like
the
he
ocean.
looks like Poseidon,
Absolutely.
or Ariel's father from The Little Mermaid,
Yeah, yeah, Triton. Yeah,
Lord Trident. Yeah,
yeah. Is it Triton or
I'm
Triton?
Trident. Oh, I
Someone
think it's
correct us.
a try.
Yeah, I think. Connie Nelson's Queen Hippolyta in
Oh,
Wonder
really?
Woman.
Where the
Um,
hell has she been?
what's that?
Where has she been?
She was.
I have not seen her in
She
a
was
damn
in.
thing since Gladiator.
Where has she been?
She played
I think
Joaquin
she was in
Phoenix's sister.
Weeds. Nope, she wasn't.
Oh, oh,
Yeah, Gladiator, Nymphomia, Devil's Advocate. No, she was in the Kevin Costner film 3 Days to Kill.
good for her.
Oh,
Hope she
another.
got money for that.
Hey, we got to see Kevin Costner again. Oh, wasn't that bliss?
It was blissful, except for the fact that he completely contradicted, you know, Mark Kent's message that she'd given him like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
But hey, who's counting?
Well, that's what he does. He sends his son off to do stupid things, and for some reason, Superman listens.
I mean, look,
Oh,
I'd argue, if you're looking for a reason to go see this movie on a purely visual level, it delivers some pretty serious thrills if you manage to sit through 2 hours and 20 minutes of it.
and you know, Ben
It
Affleck
is
did a great
it
job
is the
acting in
longest
it.
cinematic throat clearing in history.
Mm. Jeremy Irons, we haven't actually talked about him. He's pretty good in it too.
No, well, I mean, he doesn't get enough to do. I mean, there's so many people that we could talk about. We could talk about
Lawrence
Jeremy Irons.
Fishburne.
We talked about Scoot McNairy a little bit. We could talk about Lawrence Fishburne. We could talk about Amy Adams. But I mean, like, to be perfectly frank, none of them get to do anything in this film.
No.
They get to stand around, or looking like they wish they had more lines, and that's about it.
Mm.
So I mean, I kind of don't want to do them the disservice of being like, actually they were really good in this film. I mean, look, these people, they're going to be fucking good in this movie. They'd be good no matter what. They can turn trash into gold. The only thing I'll say is that I wish they had more to do.
Absolutely. I think if they took their time to read, to do a couple more runs through that script, refine it, make it a little more sensical, and not cut away at it, almost in the last minute, just so they can tease a different cut of it for the Blu-ray release.
Mm. I mean, that irks me mightily. That
Absolutely. What is it?
you
A
un,
week before?
you undercut the release of your own movie the week before it's released by basically saying that the better version of it you won't be able to see until you can get it on Blu-ray.
Mm. Which is
I mean, this movie has
purely
been an
because of
absolute
Deadpool.
nightmare of marketing nonsense.
Mm. And then they've released deleted scenes um, on the opening weekend. I've never heard that happen before. A deleted
Actually,
scene
neither have
is
I.
for a DVD. That's when you
Mm.
find it out.
It's something that after the fact provides a bit of insight into the film or anything like that, but to release it the week the film's made is basically to say, well, look, I mean, what you're seeing now is all
Mm.
right, but
And it is
just wait until you cop a look at the Blu-ray, because that's the one that's actually going to be good. You are wasting your money.
yeah. It and you're probably better to wait for this film until it comes out on Blu-ray. Because
Because
there's
for better, I mean, yeah, for better or for worse, you should see the film in the way that it was intended to be seen.
Yeah, and that is, yeah, it will. I don't know if it will be a good film in that iteration, but it'll probably be the better version of that film.
Snyder's shown that when he's allowed to swing for the fences without having to worry about violence, he's actually very, very good.
Hmm.
Have we exhausted ourselves?
I think I think this
Oh,
film has
that,
exhausted
uh,
me. I've
I was going to say, have we kind of run this into the ground a little bit?
we have taken it into the stratosphere,
To the limit.
and a nuclear bomb
Take
has
it to the
been fired at
limit.
us, and now we are Superman. And there is no sunshine coming out to save us. What is one thing you would change in this film um, that would make you think it's
One
good?
thing that
Just one thing.
one thing that I would one thing I would that's two things. All right, fuck it. How I would make the movie better? I would cut out all ancillary plot machinations about Lex Luthor goading the two into a fight because I didn't think it was necessary, and then I would get rid of Doomsday.
I would take out the Kryptonian ship.
Mm.
I don't think revisiting that again was the right thing to do. To then bring it back to the fact that Zod is now this metamorphosis into it. Originally Doomsday was, he was he was on like a meteor that was of the planet Krypton when it exploded, because he can't die. Doomsday doesn't die. He only gets stronger, stronger and stronger, and he's harder to kill, harder to kill, harder to kill. And then he winds up on Earth. And then the government takes hold of him and then reprograms him and puts on like a mind control thing. And then they use him as a deterrent for Superman. There's nothing wrong with that storyline. You can just use that. Like you already have the scenes of the government distrusting Superman. They want to Lex Luthor's like, oh, we've got this kryptonite. That's your silver bullet. And it's like, we don't need a silver bullet. We've got a goddamn arsenal. And they show Doomsday.
Right, yeah.
That's what you want, because then you've got an antagonist that kind of, I guess we can all understand and get behind. It's like, ooh, the government's at play, government's at play. Which kind of, once again feeds back to what Frank Miller was trying to do with Dark Knight Returns. That he's, government is ultimately bad and they are controlling the people, and they should just let superheroes be superheroes, and good things will happen.
I think the whole problem with that is that Snyder already tackled that entire storyline in a far superior film.
Yeah, absolutely. So
where
go see
where
Watchmen.
because it was archetypal versions of DC characters, and he didn't have the leash of audience expectation, and Warner Brothers, wanting to create a franchise that will last 20 years. He was able to swing for the fences, and he crafted something amazing. And now you see the watered down, distilled, sanitized version of what Watchmen was. I think that's what Batman v Superman is. It's Watchmen with vast studio oversight and unreasonable audience expectation.
I think that's a great place to end that off.
I think I would highly agree with you. If anyone is still here, congratulations for sticking it through to the end.
Yeah, this is. Do we want to tell the audience what we're going to do? What we're going to do next? It's not much of a palate cleanse, but
gosh. No, so what are we going to do next?
I thought we would look back at where this mess all began, and look further into Man of Steel, and to see what really went wrong, and a little bit more succinct. We've kind of said a bit. We've said a bit about it already, but kind of get into the meat and potatoes of it.
A little bit. I think we could get into the nitty gritty a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think this is. I guess you could look at this as a kind of a test drive. This is the first solid crack we've been having at it. I guess we kind of let ourselves run amok a little bit with what we wanted to discuss. I would suggest probably in the future we'll be a little bit stricter in sticking to topic. But hopefully you've enjoyed the ride.
Absolutely. Please contact us. We're on Facebook. They Came from the Silver Screen. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. You can
we're everywhere.
With us there. We're pretty much everywhere. We've got links for it that you can come and chat with us. Let us know what you would like to see. If you would like us to tackle any particular film, or delve into any of the films that we have kind of touched on in this episode. We kind of talked a lot of things, and I'm sure we're going to get to them over the course of time. So yeah.
Doesn't even have to be a singular film. If you want a discussion of an entire franchise, or the way one film has affected another, we're kind of open to exactly what form these discussions take. It can be a bit more esoteric, and can be a little weird about you know what? It's open to you guys. We want this to kind of be a dialogue that we can, hopefully have with everyone. So obviously, this is basically. I mean, I suppose we should put this caveat in for legal purposes. These opinions are our own. Obviously, they are held to no one except our own sense of free will and agency. But hopefully, if nothing else, it provokes a discussion or a thought or a notion of your own on what a movie's like, or you watch this movie or any others we discuss in the future, and it makes you think. I truly believe that film is not a passive art form; it is meant to be interrogated, and you don't experience it properly unless you truly engage with it and ask what it's actually trying to achieve. So hopefully we've today helped you along that way, and maybe in the future we'll do the same.
See you all later.